All right. Welcome to 656 Sports and Things. It's Nathan here, talking to you today about the NBA free agency. Right now it's 3 o'clock, 3:30 a.m. In Halifax here on a Monday morning. And it's October, and we're talking about the NBA free agency. What a time to be alive, what an odd year 2020 is. What we're actually going to talk about today, before I go any further, make sure to hit that like and subscribe button. A big help to me. I don't make any money off these videos. It's just something for me to give my creative flow a little, be a little more creative, and just talk to people about things I enjoy. And 2020 has been a hard year, so this gives me something to focus on, instead of the current situation the world's in. Enough about the awkward intro. Today we're going to talk about one of the interesting free agencies of 2020 in the NBA. We're actually going to talk about Demar Derozan and where he could end up. Before we start, Demar Derozan is actually my second favorite Raptors player of all time, behind Jose Calderon. Oddly enough, Jose Calderon is my favorite Raptors. Bit of an odd player. However, last 2 years, playing with the Spurs, him being traded, the sacrificial man to get cut, Kawhi, and then Kawhi leaving for LA really puts me in perspective. Where does DeMar end up this season? He's a shooting guard who doesn't play a lot of defense, or doesn't really have the handle of the ball it's 3 o'clock in the morning, or does it have it really handle the three-point game? It's an old school shooting guard, score first type of guard. I really think he'll end up making some decent money in this free agency. Not what he could have made a couple of years ago, mind you. But there are a couple options I think he'll end up signing. Before the Lakers had LeBron and AD, Magic Johnson did try to want to sign DeMar. There was a bit of news coming out maybe 2 years ago that DeMar Derozan will be going to LA. Also the Lakers or the Clippers. I can kind of see the Lakers putting a run on him, but it seemed like Magic Johnson's favor has went from DeMar DeRozan to Luka Doncic in recent news, trying to woo the star away from Dallas. I think he might try to stay in San Antonio, although I don't know if he really wants to stay in San Antonio. I don't think something's meshing well with San Antonio. I do believe, however, he could be coming back to Toronto. From all indications, DeRozan really likes Toronto, really wants to stay there. I think the fan base really like him. Not because he's, one of the best players in the NBA, very few people are, but just because he's really the only all-star who stayed there. If you look at Raptors history, they have a history of going after the big fish and never feeling as big in the city as I would assume the Leafs. Or growing up, the Leafs are far bigger than the Raptors. Even if when the Raptors win a championship, it seems like the Leafs are still a bigger deal in the city of Toronto and all of Canada. And that is changing. I've always seen that more when I'm living in Newfoundland, as long as I have, and living in Victoria. But I can see him coming back to Toronto, not on a max deal, or he might even take less money to go back to Toronto and finish out his career. From all accounts, he really likes Toronto. Now, Messiah might not offer him a deal. They might not come to terms or an agreement, because the Raptors don't bring people back usually. They didn't bring Vince Carter back. I don't think they never brought Chris Bosh back. It would be a pity for DeRozan not to come back, but it's Toronto and sports heroes. I don't think he signs with the Lakers or the Clippers. I don't really see him going there. I can, however, see him maybe going to Dallas, maybe becoming a third option in Dallas. I don't think he's was ever or can be ever a main scoring option on a championship team. I just think that's a bit too much for you to ask of DeMar. I think if he goes to Dallas, he doesn't have to be the main option. He can be a guy instead of the guy. I think the same thing would happen with the Clippers as well if he decided to go to the Clippers. It would happen with the Lakers. I just don't see it working. He doesn't seem to have that kind of big city ego that I feel like the Lakers seem to have. Nothing against the Lakers. It's just what I feel from them. And I don't think he'd want to play for the Lakers. That's just me. I can see him going to Milwaukee. Just because in Milwaukee you don't have to be the guy. The guy is obviously Giannis. He would be a good scoring option, maybe the second scoring option. But then again, do you get an option of, is DeMar good enough now to be the second scoring option on a championship team? Some people would say no. I still think he is. Even if he goes back to the Raptors, he doesn't have to be the second scoring option, or he would be at the best third. The first option on that team is Pascal. Arguably the second is Fred VanVleet. And maybe Fred's even the third behind OJ or even Kyle. So, yeah, I think he would fit in well with Toronto if he decided to go back. There's also talk of the Magic. The Magic definitely needs some guard help, and he's been rumored with the Magic for a long time. I can see the Bucks going out and, putting an offer in for him just because, Giannis is the main scoring option there. But I think DeRozan can be the second option, depending on who your third option is in that situation. You're assuming it's Bledsoe, but does Bledsoe come back? Or does Chris Middleton come back at that point? I can see DeRozan staying, but he might even take a one-year deal to stay with the Spurs, considering that the cap could be down. He's probably not going to make as much if he even wants to stay with Detroit. I think he'll find a job in the league. I think he'll probably end up going to, I'm going to assume he wants to go back with Toronto, so he might go back there. They might be able to take less money for him to come back. If that doesn't work and he wants to go in the East, Milwaukee makes sense. He can kind of be the second option. Brooklyn would make sense, but I don't think there's a fit between him and Kawhi. I think all the years of them playing against each other in Boston and then Cleveland I don't think they'd be able to get along too well. I think there's a bit of an attitude issue between the two of them, and they both play a similar role. So I don't see that happening, but if he would end up going to LA, it would kind of make sense. There is, talks of the Lakers trying to get him when he was a free agent a few years ago before he signed his deal with Toronto. Maybe that's there, maybe it's not, but he could go to the Clippers. I think he could have better games than playoff P last year. They have beaten him in the playoffs before, and if Paul George is having a bad game, then Kawhi can, roll with DeMar, and he does have a history playing with Patrick Patterson, who's on that team, a former Raptor, and Lou Will, who won the Sixth Man of the Year his year in Toronto as well. So there's that bit of playoff contingents. It's also that, or he's end up going back to the Raptors. I really think the Raptors would offer him less money than he would make it on the open market, but I think he really likes it there, and he'd probably take a hometown discount. Anyway, let me know what you think. Make sure to hit like and subscribe, and let me know where you think DeMar DeRozan is going. You all have a great day, and I'll talk to you again soon. Bye.